This is All India Radio. In the program Spotlight, now we bring you a discussion on cabinet decisions. The participants are Shekhar Iyer, political analyst, and Neelab Srivastava, journalist.
The Union Cabinet today met under the chairmanship of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. And as we all know that the cabinet meeting is usually done every week to take policy decisions, to give approval to the policy decisions of the central government. In today's meeting also, there were at least three major decisions that were sanctioned by the cabinet. The first that we will take up is on the government approving sanction of over rupees 973 crores to the State Bank of India as the reimbursement related loan moratorium that was implemented in 2020 when COVID-19 struck not only India but across the globe. And there was a cabinet briefing also on these three cabinet decisions. Union Information Broadcasting Minister Mr. Anurag Thakur briefed the media about it. Mr. Iyer, the cabinet decision on sanctioning the fund, what is it exactly about?
In the context of this COVID-19 pandemic, government had approved in October 2020 a scheme where the difference between compound interest and simple interest accrued by borrowers in specified loan amounts, they were approved in the sense that that amount would be given by the government to the banks so that the banks can adjust those amounts against the borrowing. Now, we know for a fact that during this period of COVID, many people could not pay the monthly installments, which involves a portion of the principal as well as the interest. So, since they could not pay, the interest penalty had accrued on their name. So, a scheme was envisaged, which was announced in 1st March of 2020. Again, it was renewed in August. At that time, the outlay was 5,500 crore. Now, after that, when the whole thing was redone, it was seen that the nodal agency was SBI. So, whole amount of 5,500 crore was disbursed to SBI, which was the nodal agency, to reimburse the lending institutions so that they don't charge the borrowers. Now, it has been seen that the State Bank of India has received a consolidated claims of 6,474 crore. So therefore, the balance part, which was not approved, so the State Bank had approached the government seeking that the remaining balance amount of 973.74 crore should be approved so that take care of that part. See, what is important is during this period, this was a kind of a relief to these borrowers because MSME loan itself amounted to about 2 crore. Then because under the scheme, these things were covered. MSME loan up to 2 crore, education loan up to 2 crore, housing loans up to 2 crore. Then people who had taken consumer durable loans, that was up to 2 crore. So all these were covered under this particular scheme, this ex gratia payment. And that is how the State Bank managed to give almost 6,473 crores or 474 crores. Now, but the amount to be covered was even more. So they had to, come back to the government for the remaining portion, which was 973.74 crore, which was approved by the cabinet today. But it is very important to remember that this particular decision, actually gave a lot of relief to the borrowers who could not pay their housing loan, they could not pay their car loan or bike loan. And this took care of, whatever interest that would be there between the compound interest and simple interest for 6 months of that period.
And also, if I remember correctly, the Finance Ministry had earlier said that these entire borrowings can be reimbursed with the central government. And I think in that effect, as you clearly mentioned, Mr. Iyer, that this was reimbursed now, this particular decision of the cabinet today. The other decision, I think this was part of the Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs, and it approved an infusion of rupees 1,500 crore in the Indian Renewable Energy Development Agency Limited, which is abbreviated as IREDA. Iyer Saab, is this something to do with the kind of new and renewable energy that the country is looking to harness upon and also on the employment sector?
Definitely, this equity infusion will help in employment generation of up to what is being looked at is up to say more than 10,000 jobs a year. And more importantly, by promoting renewable energy as an alternative, the carbon dioxide equivalent emission reduction will be approximately 7.49 million tons of carbon dioxide per year, which is a very significant, given our commitment at the climate conference to reduce the greenhouse gases emission. So I think this is a very important decision. And because this IREDA, that is the Indian Renewable Energy Development Agency, was started as a mini Ratna company of one category. And though it was under the administrative control of the Ministry of Renewable Energy Resources, was set up in 1987. It was meant to be a specialized non-banking financial agency. Now, with the last 34 years, IREDA has been encouraging several techno-commercial expertise and been playing a catalytic role. So, with the push for electric cars, renewable energy sources like solar energy, wind energy and other things which Prime Minister Modi has been pushing. This amount is actually to give it little more thrust. That is because the equity infusion will be to the equivalent of 1,500 crore. So this will enable to promote more projects, to push for more programs, and to popularize these renewable energy resources. I think it's a very good decision considering India's commitment. Though we are a developing country, our requirements on energy are quite a lot. But nevertheless, I think what has happened is we have seen that the government is forging ahead. We have seen particularly how the railway sector has cut down the emissions by converting more and more into electrified traction. That's a very important thing. Our diesel locomotives have been converted into electric locomotives. And also the efficiency of operations has improved so that in terms of pollution control and in terms of betterment of quality of air. So it's very important that an organization like IREDA has sufficient capital to encourage and promote use of renewable energy.
Mr. Iyer, also when we talk about going forward, the kind of clean energy as you mentioned that India is also harnessing and is looking forward to tap, but connecting this with the kind of employment generation that the country has. And now if I can read from the government statement, it says that this equity infusion will help in generation of almost over 10,000 jobs in the new and renewable energy sector. Mr. Iyer, I think the clean energy, the kind of different aspects as you mentioned about the railways cutting down on the CO2 emissions, I think this is the way forward for India.
Definitely. You see, the green energy, it can create actually lots of jobs, though the target is now a very modest 10,000 jobs. But I see it as a situation where ultimately by 2030, when the government intends to actually discourage use of petrol vehicles which use fossil fuels, we are seeing a situation where the idea is that eventually all of us must look at the future with the view that we have to shift over to, other sources. We cannot continue to depend on fossil fuel. And one thing encouraging, you're already seeing a lot of electric bikes are out in the streets of India. You can see that in major cities in Mumbai, Pune, Bangalore, Hyderabad, I can see a lot of youngsters going for electric bikes, which are subsidized by the central government and the state government. And many of the state governments have announced schemes for road tax-free kind of a situation where these vehicles are available at a cheaper subsidized rate for the promotion. So you can imagine when such developments are happening, it is very clear that renewable energy is going to be the way forward. I mean, there is no doubt about it because what we are going to see is there is going to be more advanced photovoltaic batteries and a lot of things are going to happen in this area. Because the whole world is targeting to limit the global average temperature rise to 1.5 degrees Celsius. With over 100 countries recently, they made a net zero pledge at this COP26 UN Climate Change Conference in Glasgow. So obviously, if this commitment has to be made, the focus shifts on how do we tackle this problem of greenhouse gas? Today, 70% of the emissions are done by the energy sector. So that is why I think if we want to check global warming, I think the future is renewable energy, but the renewable energy requires a lot of investment because you need electric batteries that can last longer, that can be charged fast. Also, you need to look at way, as the Prime Minister recently announced about the development of green hydrogen, bioenergy, hydropower, wind energy. These are several new areas which hold a lot of promise. If you go down south, you can see that even as you travel in a train, you can see windmills chugging along over farms, which gives you a feeling that, a lot of farmers are, shifting to wind energy in areas where the wind speed is available for sufficient category so that, you can generate power for use in farm. Of course, solar energy will be a preferred choice and we are going to see that the development of solar energy would require, more and more specific, systems which takes care of what I call the agri-voltaic project so that you will have to produce very thin cells and then usage of materials for better energy conversion. Technology will require advanced robotics also. And that also requires, grid management because renewable energy has to be connected to the grid. The challenge is, when you are encouraging local energy management, you will have to see that from generation stage to the storage stage, the technology is available at a much competitive price.
Absolutely. Different facets of the new renewable energy and the kind of strides that the world is taking and India is marching its steps ahead. Third decision of the cabinet today was on the approval of the extension of the tenure of the National Commission for Safai Karamcharis. Now, if I read from the government statement that was issued, that this National Commission for Safai Karamcharis, NCSK, extension of 3 years beyond this fiscal, that the financial year that is ending on 31st March 2022. The ramifications of this extension is something to do with the Safai Karamcharis, the workforce that works in the cleanliness domain of the country, and also aspects of manual scavenging. Mr. Iyer, please tell us about what this decision is about.
So this commission, National Commission for Safai Karamcharis, NCSK as they say, it has got a fresh lease of life for 3 years beyond the March of this year. Now, what is important, this commission's task has been to identify, manual scavengers. In the last survey that was undertaken, as of December 31st, the number of manual scavengers was put at 58,000. But there is a feeling that perhaps the number could be more because the practice of manual scavenging has continued, despite the fact that, there are laws against it. But in many towns and cities, we know that this practice may still be continuing, and the idea is that the commission is further empowered, given a fresh lease of life, so that these people are identified and specific schemes are undertaken for their betterment. Because this commission, for Safai Karamcharis has been giving its recommendations to the government regarding specific programs, and it has also been studying and evaluating the existing welfare programs. So under the provisions of this Prohibition of Employment as Manual Scavengers and the Rehabilitation Act of 2013, this National Commission for Safai Karamcharis has been assigned the task to, monitor the implementation of the Act and also tender advice regarding this both to the center and the states. Now, I think what has happened is, though the government has taken many steps for the upliftment of Safai Karamcharis, but the deprivation suffered by them in socio-economic and education is far from being eliminated. And there are sporadic instances, and we know that. And also, this cleaning of sewer and septic tanks, it continues to be an area which is receiving the concern of the government. And this commission, with its new lease of life, is expected to further look at this issue and see what can be done. Because it requires continuous monitoring. And that's why I said, it's almost a decade that we banned it. But during the COVID also, Nilabji, you would recall, the COVID warriors, were risking their lives so much, particularly the sanitation workers. That's why government acknowledged their work by showering rose petals on them, and the Prime Minister even thanked them. And, during the second wave of COVID-19, we know that at least 25 sanitation workers lost their lives. So therefore, we'll have to see that, how this problem is tackled, and those, unfortunately, who are involved in this are somehow identified and they are provided rehabilitation. Now, interestingly, Dilabji, I would like to draw your attention, like Indian Railways, which is the largest user of dry toilets in India. And as of the record, Indian Railways has about 296,000 dry toilets which require manual cleaning. So, there is a pressure to see that, this problem is tackled, because Railways has been saying that they have installed almost 260,000, bio-vacuum toilets in the long-distance trains. And this is helping the railways also save money, I'm told, to the tune of 400 crores. So this is the one way the government enterprise, they are tackling manual scavenging and sending a positive message that, if there is a will, there is a way. And what is necessary is, I think, where all the corporations, municipal corporations should also go for more eco-friendly toilets. Because there are different types of these bio toilets are available, eco-friendly toilets are available, where you save water also and you deal with the issue of scavenging without involvement of manual cleaning.
We hope that all these decisions, especially the decision that we talked about last of the Safai Karamcharis and issues about manual scavenging, are addressed. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts, Mr. Iyer.
Thank you, Nilabji.
You were listening to a discussion on cabinet decisions. The participants were Shekhar Iyer, political analyst, and Neelab Srivastava, journalist. This program was produced and presented by the News Services Division of All India Radio. You can listen to it on our mobile app News on AIR. This program is also available on our YouTube channel News on AIR Official. You may email your opinion about this program at airnsttalks@gmail.com.